Hey there, my name's Chris. Welcome back to the acreage. This week with some big things and some small things. Big things were, well, same old, taking down a ton of trees. Small things were more on the order of life improvements to make the quality of life here that much better. And I'm trying to go back and forth between those things so that way I don't get bored and I also keep my morale up. Because it's really nice to have a sense of progress. Like right now, I'm walking on the latest trail that I cut this week, and you'll see why in a minute or two. And all these trails are about giving me access to different parts of the property so I don't need to be tripping over things or not being able to see what's in front of me. And to do that, as I'm sure you know if you've been watching any of my other videos, I'm doing that with a Ryobi trimmer. That trimmer is okay. It seems to be doing the job that I needed to do. But the blade that it came with was basically a stamped piece of steel. And it cuts by bludgeoning the trees into submission. It is spinning at 10,000-ish RPM and whacks into the tree and cause it to basically blow apart. It's terrifying though. And one of the things that I am repeatedly trying to do is do things sort of like the standard way, the expected way. So that way I can really understand what I want to do, why I want to do it, and why it's important, but also get a real feeling for how big of an improvement there was, because there's so much that I don't know here. I don't want to jump to conclusions. But one of those things was eventually getting a sharper blade on the Ryobi trimmer. So as I said, like when the tree is on the stem, it'll swing, it'll hit it, it'll blow it to pieces, and then the tree falls over. But you're doing this on a trail where you can't see where you're going necessarily, and so you're doing it fairly high off the ground because you can't really see what's in front of you because all the ferns and canopy and whatever else. And you want to cut those stems lower. And so that way you're not tripping over them. So that way they're less prone to growing back. But as you do, or as you try, I should say, it's no longer as easy. So what you end up with is this fractured, broken wood that is hard to deal with. And the reason for that is that without all the weight of the tree above it to sort of slow down the movement of that stalk when the blade hits it, it is a lot easier to move, so it just flattens over. And you can't cut it with the stock blade as it is. And that means you're going to leave all kinds of tripping hazards all over. And that's less than ideal. So I took the time and I sharpened it. And I did it with a hand file because we're close to a fire ban. I didn't want to take the risk of setting something on fire with the angle grinder. And made a teardrop shape on the leading edges of that blade. And oh my goodness, did it make a difference. The speed of the thing seems to increase a little bit, but when it hits something, it doesn't slow down anymore for the most part. It goes through grass like it's not there. It goes through twigs like it's not there. And most of the, say, half-inch size stuff, that's where it would tend to stall. Now it just goes through it. And I haven't really figured out what its limit is now. And I don't want to go too big just because what ends up happening is that now that it's sharp, it slices the tree starts to fall. And on the second pass, it slices another piece. And depending on which side of the blade you're on, it can send that piece back at your legs at Mach 3. And it does not feel very nice at all. But I noticed that the battery life is way better now. It is able to cut through things more easily. I'm not having to come back and do a second pass because it just sort of pushed some stuff over. It's just cutting through everything. And I can come back and I can trim up those little stumps, which I'm gonna have to do everywhere now, right down to the ground without having any issues. So far, the only way that I've found to stall it is by getting it bound in the ground. But because I cut such a blunt edge on it, it doesn't seem to dull at all, at least not yet. Not that I've dinged a rock or anything, but it's so much better. It makes the whole experience of trimming faster and easier and more pleasant. Probably what's going to wear out first on this thing is that little pin, and it's not good for battery life or the motor itself. And it's something that I knew that I had to do eventually, but my friend Steve, hey Steve, reminded me that yeah, I should probably do that because all those reasons. I wasn't expecting it to be that dramatic an improvement. Like, it's just night and day. I understand why they don't sell them sharpened like that, because this is a categoric death machine. There's no question that this thing could probably take your leg clean off if you were careless with it. So it's really good to get a sense of how the machine moves, its balance, like what not to do. But yeah, that's a way better. So this trail that I put through is part of my ongoing effort to access more parts of the property. Coming back here before was not impossible, but it was so unpleasant because, you know, your face is full of this sort of stuff and it's trying to jab you in the eye, jab you in the ear, take out your jugular depending on how it feels that day. And I want to be able to move around and experience the property and plan for the property in ways that don't require a lot of effort. So if I come out here, I don't have a lot of time. Now I can come out to where I am right now with almost no effort at all. It's great. And as I go along, more and more trails are getting opened, which is making access so much better. And this is one of my favorite features of the property. It's basically a solid rock wall that goes almost straight, well, more than straight up. It's actually overhanging by a few feet, and it goes up something like 30 feet. And I don't necessarily understand why this thing is here, because it's sort of out of place. It's part of the ridge that's here, but given how thin it is, it's only maybe 30 feet thick, and it slopes down off the other side, and certainly not nearly as steep on the other side, but it's just sticking here out of the ground. And underneath it, there's basically a groove cut underneath that's currently filled with soil. I don't know how much of a cave that is. But it's cool. I really like it. Don't understand why it's here, but I really like it. I decided that I'm not going to do a large 40 by 60, and I decided I'm going to build 3 smaller buildings, all side by side, relatively close to this rock. So where we are here, I'm standing maybe 5 feet from the rock. So 5-6 feet from the rock is going to be the buildings lined up along it. And I'm going to use this rock as a snow shelter. I'm going to build a roof off the top of it, or possibly pin to it, to sort of cover the entrances to the workshops. So that way I have this area where I can go from one workshop to the other that has almost no snow and is protected from the elements. So that way, if I'm doing a combination of metalworking, woodworking, assembly, whatever else, I'm going as though it's one building. But I'm building them separately. The wood shop first, for obvious reasons, because I'm building with so much wood, and having, you know, a proper table saw and bandsaw, router table, etc. and so forth will make a lot of that a whole lot easier. And then building the other buildings as time permits and willingness permits. And taking advantage of these cool things that the property has to offer. And one of the reasons that I want to be here is that the house is going to be 400 to 500 feet that way. And once we move out here full time, my wife is not going to want to hear the various pleasantries going on in my shop, be it the tool noise or the swearing. So being here with that rock wall and all the other terrain benefits that are offered by this location, it's going to be super quiet for her. So I can make all the noise that I want. I'm not really going to bother anyone. Now, the other added benefit of this area is actually really flat. So the rock ridge is just behind the trees here. There's another ridge here. And then on this side, opposite, it slopes down into the creek. But for, I don't know, maybe 40 feet, it's all just flat. And there's a lot of rock and a little bit of soil here. But it's a really good place to build something where you're going to want to have solid foundations. ultimately I want to get myself a milling machine, and rather than relying just like on a concrete pad that's sitting on the random dirt that's around, I want to actually put the foundation of that machine right down to solid rock. So I cut this trail back from the bottom of the area that I cleared even earlier, still in the week. Now I'm at least 150 feet down the hill from where the sleep camp site is going to be. And that clearing went more or less the same as the clearing from last week. This week was a lot more smaller trees and brush, because I'm trying to really open up the area of the hill. So that way I can be dropping trees into the clearing as much as possible. So that way it's easier to deal with later on. So like I said last week, I've decided that one of the things that I want to do is build as a log cabin versus stick or timber frame. And so I spent some time this week shaving up some small rounds of maple. Maple just because I'm not really using it for anything. It was too small to use. And boy, I wish I had more because that stuff was lovely to peel. But I'm making these small rounds so that way I can cut up little samples of the different kinds of log joinery that I'm going to want to try, but more specifically to know which ones I do and don't want to do. I've got 5 different ideas that I want to do. So I want to do a Lincoln log, half dovetail, square notch, pièce en place, a full scribe Swedish cope, and a round notch. Each one has their own advantages and disadvantages, and especially for now I'm really looking for speed, so I almost 100% know that I'm not going to do a Swedish cope. But I'm just wanting to come to terms with the decision so I sort of understand where I'm going and what the real trade-offs are from that tactile experience of doing it by hand without having to deal with giant logs. So that is something that I'm going to be starting when I get home tonight. Tomorrow it's supposed to be really wet, so I don't really want to be out here for that. So I'll start working on that. Not sure if it's going to be in this video yet or not. Still don't have permits. I'm beside myself with how slow it is. But anyways, we keep working forward. So now, like I said, I'm way down here. I've got this really big open space. So next week I'm going to start cutting trail down this way and over. I want to have a loop that goes down to where I want to put the bridge across the creek. And so I would say now I'm sort of in the core lowlands because we've dropped down a good 30 feet from where we were up top. And so this trail is going to go through the core lowlands to where the creek does its little S-curve. And I want to just keep taking down trees. I didn't get a chance to work on the backhoe this week. I realized that the day that I was going to do it, I realized that I didn't have the tools that I needed. I forgot them at home. And it's supposed to start raining in an hour, so I don't think I really have time to fuss with that today. So another thing I got working this week was the Capstan winch, which didn't go nearly as smoothly as I would have liked. First, discovered that where I thought it came with the oil and the rope, it came with neither, which is fine. I looked it up and that's actually what I bought, so I can't really fault the seller for that. And then, so I got the rope and I got the oil and put the oil and gas into the machine and promptly flooded it. It took me a few minutes to realize that I had, and managed to hydrolock it in the process. And if you've ever hydrolocked a motor, yanking on that pull string when that happens does not feel very nice at all. Ow! But once I realized what I'd done, it was just a matter of getting it dried out. I don't have a spark plug socket, so that's another list that I have to get. But because of that, because it's a brand new motor anyways, I don't have to worry about fouling on the motor, because if it had a spark, it had one. I just turned it off and pulled until it started to hydrolock again with the choke off, motor off, and then waited. And then it did it a couple more times to sort of put enough fresh air through the motor to dry out the extra gasoline. And with a few false starts in there, because, you know, why should it be easy? But eventually got to the point where she started. And I let it run for its 5-minute break-in and gave her a whirl. And, well, it works just like a Capstan winch should. But the first day that I tried it, it was difficult, and I was in a hurry. And that's partially because there was a storm coming, and I really didn't want to leave it to the last minute. But in so doing, I hurried and made a lot of stupid decisions. Another theme of the channel. And part of that was the fact that the angle of the log relative to where I was pulling from was wrong, and so it was binding up on the stumps and stuff. So I know exactly what I need to do, but I'm trying to hurry because there'll be a storm coming. And I also have a couple errands to run in town, so I wanted to pull this log up, but in order to do so, because it's so long, I need to grab it at the bottom, pull it this way before I pull it that way, and I just don't have time to do it. I've been keeping an eye on the radar. and it's less than 10 kilometers away. So it's probably going to be here in 10 minutes. But at least I got to use the Capstan winch this week, which is better than last week. So, well, I'm just realizing now that I'm looking at it, there's a whole pile of branches still attached to this tree, which is not going to make it any easier. I think the next thing I really have to figure out for up here, other than when we're using the winch on the bike, is what I'm going to anchor to. Because the little spruce trees that I'm linking to over there, anything much heavier than this, I just got to pull them out of the ground. Anyway, got to pack up before that rain hits. So today I came out with the intention of doing it right this time. One of the things that I realized yesterday as I was rushing through it was my rope was cutting through the ground, which it actually was when I was trying the drill powered winch a couple weeks ago. And that's no good. Can't have that. So I wanted to try something out. I've got a couple of snatch blocks and I made a little stand so that way I could put the snatch block just anywhere and be able to redirect the rope a little bit so that way it can go up and then go down. This is why you learn your knots, kids. This is why you learn your knots, kids. So I hooked up the drill powered winch to that tree and used it to pull the log base towards it. And then after that, I hooked up the winch to one of the fallen trees so I could pull the nose of the tree over. And then used the capstan winch to pull up the tree. It's still a little bit slow. Part of that is a learning curve. It didn't work super great just because it's too small. It needs a wider base so that way it's not quite as tippy. But it definitely kept the rope out of the ground, which was definitely a plus. I didn't want to invest a huge amount of time in building it. So next week, I'll probably make a slightly better version of it, and I can use it as we go along. I'm guessing next week I'm gonna get down another 15 or 20 trees. And my friend that I mentioned last week, hey Carl, thought it would be better to come around this little rock cliff that's here and come up through this side when we're using the winch on his bike. So I had to clear out all of the crap here so that way there's a clear path to get in there. But one step at a time. The one thing that is making me a little bit nervous though, the leaves are changing. Not all of them. The ash seem to be going first. I haven't seen any red around from the maple starting to go. But that's putting a clock on how long it's going to be before winter starts. 4 to 6 weeks. Mother Nature depending. But that's all part of it. So another thing that I was trying to do this week was figure out where I want to put my fire pit, which is basically right here on this ledge. And originally I thought getting rid of this stump would be easy. It's not going to be. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly where the rock is because I really want to pin to the rock. I don't want it to be that I'm sitting on 4 or 5 inches of soil and the whole thing can easily tip over. You know, we have moose and bear and other things that can be curious and push on things, or tree falls or whatever else, and I want to be able to come out here and not have to worry about whether the fire pit is going to be in good condition or not. So making sure that it can't easily move without heavy equipment seems like the right thing to do. But while doing that, boy did I realize that's a set of muscles that I haven't used in a long time, that for all the work that I've been doing here, and I've been feeling more and more comfortable doing it. I'm not straining myself as much. My muscles aren't screaming at me by the end of the day. Yeah, that wasn't the case when I tried to do that shoveling. It was so unpleasant. So I really have to decide what I'm going to do with this fire pit. Originally, I wanted to put it here so that way it was facing north. So that way in the winter while I'm enjoying it, I have the south sun in my face, because it's really good to have a little bit of sun in the winter. But that stump is in the way, and the easiest way to get rid of it is just to burn it. But to burn it, I have to wait until it's cool and wet enough. And once it's cool and wet enough, I'm not sure that I'll be able to use concrete, because it'll be too cold and it will freeze. Can't let concrete freeze before it's cured. And I'm also not built for digging in this temperature. It's not nearly as bad as it's been most of the summer. I mean, I've obviously gotten a lot of work done, but digging is using a whole set of muscles that I forgot that I had and aren't very happy about the whole situation. So it's making me even hotter than normal. But if I just clear off the rock face, pull out some of the soil from right against the rock, and then I'll put a couple of, drill in a couple pins, so that way the wall is stable, and it'll be good enough. My actual intention isn't for this to be my long-term relaxation fire pit. That I plan on doing down over there, fully enclosed, but that's a much bigger, less important project. But having this is really important for me for morale, because if this is all work all the time, eventually I'm going to burn out and I'm not going to be able to keep going. I need to have a place where, you know, I can sit and read, sit and think, sit and edit, and just enjoy the fact that I'm out here. And like right now, it's more than pleasant enough that I could just sit here and enjoy it as it is. But in the winter, you need to have another source of heat. But now that I'm getting further and further down and clearing out all this stuff all around, I'm going to have a nice view here no matter what. That's also important because I want to be able to see far. It's always my modus operandi here, is to be able to actually see the fact that I've got this gigantic property. Enough talking, start digging. I'll do a little bit more today and do a little bit more next week until I'm used to shoveling again. Oh, the wonders of being somebody who sits at a computer all day. And as I see that, I can see this maple tree right here, tinges of red on a whole bunch of those leaves. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. I'm definitely finding that now coming out here is a lot easier. Not having to suffer the heat means that instead of agonizing over the fact, oh, I have to come out here again, I'm really looking forward to it and planning, oh, this is what I'm going to do the next day. A lot of times it's not turning out to be that. It is taking me a lot longer to do things. I'm overestimating the amount of time that it takes me to do this stuff, but even so, every day something happens. I move a little bit forward. And while winter is still coming, and I know that that's going to be its own kind of suffering, because I'm far enough in here where I'm getting started. Moving things in here, myself included, is going to be a challenge. And I really want to get the backhoe running, because then I'm going to pull one of the sheds from down at the head of the driveway all the way back here, so that way I can at least leave all the gear right here where I'm working. I've lost count of the number of hours that I've lost just walking back and forth to the sheds because I forgot something, start working, 20 minutes later, oh, I forgot, whatever, and back I go. And I mean, it's not a lot of time, and honestly, I'm enjoying walking in and out the road. It does take time away from doing things that are obviously wildly more productive. My options are relatively small. It's clearing the driveway, which, I mean, depending on how much snow we get, we can have it where the snow is not so bad and it's passable by truck, especially driving in regularly to pack it down. I might be able to make it till mid-January. But we've also had years where we get 12 feet of snow, and that's probably not going to be passable with the truck no matter what I do, because I don't have a blower, I don't have anything like that. So it's either snowshoes, skis, or a sled. I have snowshoes somewhere, haven't found them, still looking. I don't have skis anymore. I lost those in a fire in 2011. And I have at least 3 people, not including myself, that are looking for a sled. Don't have a lot of money to spend on it, but oh man, it'll make life easier, and I can use it for cutting trail and doing a lot of stuff over the course of the winter that I might not easily do otherwise. So after having dug the little hole at the base of this rock and realizing that really I have not dug a hole in a really long time, I thought about it a little bit more, and I was talking to my wife about it, and also talking to her about the idea of burning this stump into oblivion. And she was a Girl Guide and is very fire averse for lots of good reasons. And she said that was probably a bad idea because there's a small chance that it could go into the roots and stay there until next year and then start a real fire that none of us want. And I learned a long time ago, always listen to my wife. She is much more pragmatic and safety conscious than I am, and when she says don't do something, you just don't do something. But then I realized that, you know, the rock sloughs off a little further down, and well, there's bare rock there, so I should just be able to clear that off and find something, and sure enough, that's exactly what I did. Same kind of sandy gravel that I found in my first video. This is the same side, so there's obviously a little dip here, and it collected. Who'd have thunk it? Well, I mean, it was obvious if I thought about it, but anyways, here we are. That was a hard one. Goodbye. And it's actually better because the rock curves over, so that way I can have my fire pit sort of grabbing the rock and drilling in the holes, so that way I can put rebar. Yeah, that's not going to be temporary in any way, shape, or form. But it really feels good to have got it done. Next week, I'm going to hopefully get that fire pit built. And so it's really important for me to get the fire pit done, because we've already had frost this year, and concrete can't freeze while it's curing, or it's basically ruined. So I don't want to risk that. So while next week is going to be warm, that's pretty much my main window for getting this done, and probably pouring the footings for the sleep camp, regardless of whether or not that permit comes in, because I mean, I don't need a permit to pour footings. I wanted to get it done. God damn it, I got it done. So today, I think, is the first day that I've come out here and managed to do everything that I wanted to get done. Not what I thought I could get done, but what I wanted to get done. And it feels really good. But also from the standpoint that maybe, just maybe, I'm getting slightly more realistic expectations for what I can do and what I can't do. But this week, all told, I think I really earned editing day. Because while editing day is not making content, it's still work, but I get to sit on my butt the whole day. So that said, it's time to head home and get started on the edit. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and do all the things. And have a good one. Take 453 works way better when you turn the camera on. Anyways, shall we begin?